Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Connection Week 184. Excited to be here. I want to just jump into this topic because I'm actually pretty passionate about it. I have so much to say about it. So, as I said in the invite to all of you, this is like the time of year where you hear people saying things to each other like, how far are you along in your Pesach cleaning? And when are you changing over? And how many rooms do you have left? And it starts to become like the topic of conversation when like women get together, right? Have you ever had that experience? Tell me that I'm not alone in that. I find like, especially on Shabbos, like Friday night, you go to the park, or I was once like at the mikvah on a Friday night, and like all the women are sitting in the waiting room, and like that's what they're talking about. And I'm like, why are we talking about this? Like, and here's why I don't like that conversation. Here's like why I feel like that question, how far along are you? And in your cleaning, right? It sounds like you could be saying something else. And what are you switching over? And how many rooms do you have left? Let me tell you why that question is not helpful. And if anything, you could say like, "Oh, it's just women talking about it and sharing their experiences and venting or sharing where they're at." And that may be true. And if it's like you and your friends that like you called and the two of you are like, "Okay, let's figure out where we're at. I just need to like unload this on someone. I need to get it out of my head or, you know, that's one thing. But when women are just asking each other that question randomly on the streets, even though, okay, you could say it's just a topic of conversation, maybe. But here's the thing, here's why I think that that question can be so damaging and hurtful, which is that it kind of creates this narrative as if there is a place that any of us should be at a certain time, right? As if like you all should turn over your kitchen by a certain time. You all should be finished a certain amount of rooms by a certain time. And like everything in life, there's often that narrative will turn into as early as possible, right? So like I turn over the day before. Well, I turn over the week before. Well, I turn over the month before. And it's like as if it becomes almost like we're trying to outdo each other, as if like there's this big like this big perfection that we're all aiming for, and we're all like competing to be as early, and the earlier you are, that means that you more have it together. And then you have women who like are not at that point, feeling like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Why aren't I there yet? I'm such a mess, and like beating themselves up over it. And by the way, this is not just a Pesach thing, because this shows up in so many areas of our lives. When you're talking about different, where we think we need to be in our relationships, where we think we need to be in our careers, where we think we might need to be in how many kids we have, or where our kids go to school, or how, if they're married yet, or if we think that it's about like how connected we should feel and how many friends we should have. Who knows how big our house is? It can be so many different topics where this like can become the issue, where it's like almost like there's some narrative that we all feel that we have to live up to. And here's the thing. There's no such thing as the ideal time that any of us need to be getting ready on. Like there's no schedule that fits everyone. I've been doing a lot of research for With All Your Heart, because that's coming up, and I've in the process of inviting the experts for this year. And I did happen to stumble across like a few websites and different women, and some of them were talking about like, when should you be ready for Pesach? When should you clean for Pesach? I'm just like, wait, why are we giving people timelines? We're giving them the timelines that work for us. But here's the reality with Pesach and with life. What will work for you is going to be different than what's going to work for someone else. What's good for you and your family is going to be different than what's good for another woman and her family. Why? Because everyone has their own situations, their own resources, their own emotional states, their own psychological states, their own realities of themselves and their personalities and their husbands and their children and everything else that they have going on. And there's no such thing as the one way that it quote unquote should be done, right? As long as you're done by Pesach, I mean, that's what should be done. And that's because, we have a halacha around it. But other than that, there's no such thing as when it should be done. Although there you have plenty of people who just go away for Pesach and they don't clean for Pesach. So again, the truth is there is no when it should be done. And this is important for us. This is really important for us to take in. And it's really important to internalize and acknowledge, like, rather than looking around at like what are other people doing and what works for other people, to really tune into ourselves and ask the question, what works for me? What is best for me and what works for me and my lifestyle, right? Some people, they have to work. Like they have a 9 to 5 job or a whatever different hours job that goes, or a regular job that goes all the way up to Erev Pesach. Some people have to work on Erev Pesach. And so their cleaning schedule is going to look very different than somebody who doesn't work or doesn't work at that time. I've, thank God, been blessed that I always either worked in like seminaries where like they close down like 2 weeks before Pesach, or have my own business. So I can set it aside most of the week before Pesach to be my cleaning time. Some people have help, other people don't have help. Some people are going away, some people are home. Some people are away for the first days and they don't have to make Seder, and some people have to make Seder. Some people have little kids, some people have older kids. For some people, and this is where it really gets important to tune into yourself. Also, for some people, turning over early and getting things done earlier is going to give them menuchas nefesh. They're going to feel more relaxed. And for other people, it's going to make them more stressed, right? I know personally, as somebody who gets a little bit anxious sometimes, I've been getting much better about like chametz and the thought of like little itsy bitsy pieces of chametz getting all over things. The the earlier I turn over my kitchen, the more stressed I'm going to be when the kids are coming, or I'm coming from eating chametz outside into the house, right? The more stressful it's going to be to me. And so I want to turn over my kitchen as late as possible, that it's still as early as I need to get ready and cook for the first, set up the kasher, set up the kitchen and cook for the first day or 2 days. Like this year, we have Shabbos before of Pesach. But to turn over, it also depends. Do you have a Pesach kitchen? Do you not have a Pesach kitchen? Do you have the ability to eat somewhere else? Like we can eat outside in our chatzer, or do you not? Do you have, a big enough space to have different areas set aside, or is everything in one area? How big is your house in general, right? If can you clean the upstairs and nobody's going to go upstairs with chametz, or are your bedrooms basically right off your kitchen? All of that is going to make a difference in what works for you. Do you hear what I'm saying here? It's so important to be mindful of the reality that there's no one size fits all. There isn't a one size fits all when it comes to Pesach cleaning or when it comes to anything in our lives. There's no one size fits all. It's going to be about what works for me and what's good for my family and what is the ideal for the way I work. And it's not about even like setting yourself up like, well, really, you should be more organized and be ready earlier. Like, okay, but like, let's be practical about where we're at. There's advantages and disadvantages to all different types of temperaments. And so, if there's a reality that you're very busy leading up to it, if there's a reality that you have the ability to take more time to clean, is there the reality that you have other resources, you don't have other resources, what's going to allow you, not in the what you should have and what you should be. None of those like shoulding on yourself. Instead, being realistic about your situation and your realities, to ask, what is my timeline that's going to work for me? Are you doing the shopping? When are you going to get it done? Right? What would be the best time to do it? Where are you going to put the stuff when it comes? Like everyone has to figure out what's going to actually work best for them. And again, we can should all over ourselves, but that's not going to help us, right? Well, I should be done by this time. Okay, but are you going to be? And even if you could be, is that actually what works best for you? And if you can't, or that's going to be more stressful for you, then why tell yourself that you have to do that? So it's very important in this area and in all areas of life to give ourselves the permission to acknowledge what's true for ourselves, what works best for us, and let go of the noise of, the stress of thinking that we have to be as, perfectly having it together as it seems like other people do. And remember that other people who may have it, it seems that they have it all together earlier. That might be great and that works for them. And if it doesn't work for you, that doesn't make you bad or wrong or broken. It just makes you different. It just makes you different. And that's okay. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just like there's no right or wrong way to do anything, right? There's no right or wrong way to to handle any of these situations in life. There's what works and what doesn't work. And that's why it's so important in life to, really have the ability to really get guidance practically on what's coming up for you in your situation, right? I was just explaining this to my clients in the Absolutely Feminine program, how you may ask for coaching on something and I give you coaching and you're like, no, that won't work for me. And that's okay because I'm like, great. I hear you. You know what? If there maybe there's a fear that we need to work through, maybe it just feels different and uncomfortable. And if it really doesn't work, that's okay. There's always other tools that we can pull out and try something else that will work for you because it's not about a cookie cutter situation. If it was like, okay, you just have to do X, Y, and Z in every situation in life and that's it, like you'll have life figured out, like here's the hacks, well, you know, that would be so convenient, but that's not even what life is about because even if it works in one situation, it might not work in a different situation, right? How you cleaned for Pesach and cooked for Pesach last year is not necessarily going to work this year. Why? Well, it's a different configuration of when Shabbos and Yenta falls out. Your kids are going to be in a different age. You have different things going on around you. You might be in a different emotional state. You might be in a different physical state, right? We have to take into account in every area of our life that it's never a cookie cutter, just easy, oh, just follow X, Y, and Z solutions. It's important to have tools. It's important to have a a structure and of understanding like what helps us in our life. Yes, we don't need to flounder around and figure everything out from scratch from the beginning. And at the same time, to know that every situation is going to come with its own challenges, its own differences, its own nuances. And so knowing that there's no one right way to do it. There's no way that you should do it. It's not comparing yourself to someone else because someone else's situation is totally different than yours. And also, we don't know what's going on in everyone else's situation. So, somebody who seems to perfectly have it all together, everyone has their stuff that's going on. Everyone has their own challenges. Everyone has what they're choosing to give over to the world and what they themselves are struggling with. And so, I think it's really important for us in general, and especially as we're already have so much on our plates and so much to do, to also let go of all that noise of like, I should be doing this, but I should be there. I'm so happy I got this done, but I should have, my neighbor has all of this other stuff done and I should really be all the way over there. Like, who's like, whenever you have a should, to remind yourself, like, okay, maybe I want to be there, but who says that's where I should be, right? It's not about what should, it's about what works for me. And having the ability to look to figure out how to make it work for you to have that that those to let go of the stress of feeling like it needs to be done a certain way. And that's really important because so often the stress that we're feeling around things, and definitely around Pesach, is about it's not necessarily so much about what we need to do, it's about the stories that we're telling ourselves, right? What we're making it mean, where we're at, the fears that are coming up around. But, is this going to get done? Is there going to be enough food? Am I going to get through it all? And that's why, it's important to quiet all that noise as much as possible so that then you can focus on actually getting things done and not being extra stressed because you're thinking all of these thoughts that are just making it harder for you to actually jump in and accomplish what you need to accomplish because you're thinking about all the things you should be doing instead of focusing on what needs to get done, what you want to do, what works for you. Is this resonating with you, ladies? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what's coming up for you, and if this is helpful, if these are like helpful ideas in helping you quiet some of that noise. Do you hate those questions as much as I do? I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's always good to hear from you. And these ideas, this the concept of like staying calm, it's also very helpful to not only let go of all the shoulds that are on us, but also stay focused on recognizing what we can be doing and how we can be preparing both physically, emotionally, spiritually. Look, we have to be real that all of this stress that can come onto our shoulders at this time of year, it like we talked about last week, it doesn't just affect how we feel. It's going to have an effect on how productive we're being. It's going to have an effect on our relationships. And, I just remember so many years where, like, the week before Pesach was not just stressful for me and I was hungry and I didn't know, I was like floundering trying to figure it all out, but it would create so much distance in my relationship, right? Where I felt distant from my husband. I felt distant from my kids, like just yelling and trying to like figure things out. And it was like, wait, I realized like I was making Pesach this like dreaded holiday because Ima goes crazy and Ima's all stressed out. And it really, so much of the inner work that I've done and so much of the tools that I now teach to my clients and where I'm sharing with you here made such a difference, and please God continue to make such a difference in how we go into Pesach, and not just how I go into Pesach and how my family goes into Pesach, but it's one of those touchstones that I hear from my clients year after year that like, wow, Pesach is just so different. Pesach, Erev Pesach, going into Erev Pesach in a calmer way, going into Erev Pesach in a way where it doesn't feel rattled and you feel actually more accomplished from a calmer place than you did in the past. And that's one of the reasons that I'm offering this Keeping Calm and Connected, just short mini coaching program over the 21 days from Rosh Chodesh Nisan until the end of Pesach, just to help you stay calm, help you stay connected. And you might be thinking like, oh my gosh, but like, isn't that just another to do on the list? Like, you're talking about, like, doing another thing, and that's why it's not gonna be I'm happy to dissuade any fears that you have. That's not gonna be another thing on your to-do list. First of all, I hope you'll enjoy listening to it, but also it'll be something that you can listen to, not that you have to sit and take notes and give an hour of your time. We're talking 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes of tips and tools and ideas and inspiration that can actually keep you focused and actually keep you in a calmer place and keep you connected to yourself. That was one of the one of the biggest differences that is going on in these years, like now leading up to Pesach and how it was, 10, 20 years ago, is staying connected to myself during that time, which actually allows me to work faster and more efficiently. Staying connected to your husband, staying connected to your children, staying connected to Hashem, right? Like so often we're so focused on like getting to the Seder. The very, very first blog post I ever wrote, I don't know if any of you have been on my list since then, but I wrote the very, very first blog post I ever wrote was about a story that was in my family of how there was a year that my grandmother, who I grew up being at the Seder with her, I went to her Seder for the first like almost every year of the first like the 17 years of my life that I lived in Toronto. I was at my grandparents' Seder, maybe not one or two of them. And I loved being with my grandmother at the Seder, and she loved the Seder, and she was singing, and she loved being with all the kids and serving the food. And like, it was just such a highlight of the year to be with her at the Seder, and I remember hearing the story that there was one year that she, at the beginning of the Seder, kinda just, like, put her head down to rest for a minute, and she slept through the whole thing. And I remember thinking like, "Booby, how could you do like, how did that happen?" And she's like, "I don't know, it was a hard year, it was very busy, little kids, and, like, I was just tired." And I had FOMO before FOMO was even a thing. So like that like traumatized me, that story. And so the question of like how can we get to the Seder in a way where we're not gonna fall asleep at the Seder or be just so exhausted that we're like shut down and we're like, wait, we're at the Seder? Like we're so busy getting ready for Pesach that we don't even think about how to prepare ourselves for the Seder, how to prepare ourselves to give over. Seder night is a very important night educationally to give over our Masorah, our tradition, our like belief and our love for Torah to our children. And so, it's often so easy to forget it to prepare for that. And so that's also something that's going to be a part of this, helping you stay connected to what Pesach is about, helping you feel energized for it, helping you have I like know what you like, get tuned into things that you might want to share, um, get tuned into what it is that you want to give over. And again, little nuggets that's going to give you serenity, right? Even in the craziness, that's going to give you like inspiration, that's going to give you calmness as you deal with everything that's going on. And, these are tools that literally make a difference between going into Pesach in a rattled way and going into it calm and connected to everyone that you love. So that's the one. Yes. So how? So, that's what I'll be giving over. I did give one of my most, the biggest things that I think are so important and underlying everything is that idea of knowing that you have to do things in a way that works for you. You have to do things in a way that works for your family and not getting caught up in the craziness. And to know really practically how to do that, I'd be happy to have you on that journey. The link to join is hanadeutsch.com/calm. Right. There's also a link in the emails that I've been sending out. And, you're definitely welcome to check it out. It's going to be fun. It's going to give you something to listen to. It's going to, be easy. And there'll be like things you can, print out on the days that you can't listen to something. It's going to be just a way for you to stay focused and stay centered and stay connected in a time that we can forget about it. And here's the irony is that in moments of stress, the thing that helps us the most is connection. The thing that makes the biggest difference in dealing with stress is not going through it alone and knowing that we have others with us, knowing that we are connected to others. And that's why feeling alienated from our husbands and our kids and maybe parents or siblings, wherever you're going to be for Pesach, feeling alienated from them actually makes us more stressed. And if we can not only have less stress, but also feel connected, that's going to be like a beautiful cycle that's going to allow us to really go into the holiday, go into Chag really besimcha, which is an important part of the mitzvah itself, which is an important part of the holiday too. So I hope to see you there. hanadeutsch.com/calm. We start on Sunday. It's going to be easy and manageable and game changing for the holiday season. And I look forward to seeing you there. And I look forward to seeing all of you on our next Coffee and Connection. I invite you to really, ask yourself that question: what is going to work best for me? What's going to work best for my family? And give yourself the permission to do things in that way. I'll see you all soon. Until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.